when I had come back from Puttaparthi and started giving the messages, I used to read it. And I suffer with a lack of self-confidence. So after one message, my whole body would be sweating profusely and my heart will be pounding in front of so many people. But after a while, given Swami's talks, after a while my eyes would automatically close and then words would come. And this is how sometimes the message, without my intervention or planning, it would happen like this. And one day I got a call from a prominent doctor in my country who was very close to me. And he did not agree with the way of talking off the cuff. And he was very insulting and I felt very hurt. So on a subsequent trip to India, Swami granted another interview. And with this in my mind fresh, I said, Swami, may I speak with you privately? He said, Acha, go. And as he took me into the interview room, he put me to sit down. Swami reaches out and then pinches me on my cheek. And he said, you must speak on SAI experience and morality. And then I said, Swami, but I don't use any written material. And sometimes my eyes are closed. He looks at me and he said, you go and speak. And I, emphatically, I will be there inside you. And then I said, Swami, I'll forget everybody else. God is telling me this now. Now I have come from a broken home. My father was a chronic alcoholic. My brother was a drug addict. I had an epileptic brother. My other brother was an alcoholic. And so almost every day there used to be violence and quarreling and different kinds of hardships in the house. And I felt very pained and hurt at this because I really wanted a family in which there was unity and harmony. Having come back from Swami, and because meat used to be cooked in the house and alcohol, I told my parents I'm going to build a separate room at the back of the house. And so I did that. I built a separate room and I lived separately. And there I intensified my sadhana, doing the Gayatri mantra, Jyoti meditation, practicing my reading and so on from Sai. And one day I prayed to Bhagwan and I said, Swami, I will give myself to service in your organization. But you must promise me one thing, that you will restore the unity in my family. And lo and behold, after a while praying like this and doing Swami's work, one day my brother, who was a drug addict, he had long hair, plaited hair. He came with the one scissors and he asked me to cut it. I said, you want me to cut your hair? And I said, this is Swami's miracle. Then my eldest brother, who was a chronic alcoholic, he one day came and said, he's given up alcohol. And I said, Swami, this is your miracle. And most important, my father gave up drinking and became involved with the Alcoholic Anonymous, which is an organization that helps people to give up drinking. And so I began to see the hand of Swami. And from my belief now, my brothers gravitated to Sai Baba. They started to read about Baba. My father started to read and we started to have group discussions about Satya Sai Baba. And to the point where my mother now has come to Puttaparthi 3 times. And one of my brothers is also here. He's been on his 2nd trip. So the transforming effect of Swami has overflowed from myself into my family. At the time I came into contact with Swami, I was studying to be an accountant. So I worked in a company called Price Waterhouse, an international firm. And with the profession as it is, every Friday the boys will go for drinks to socialize and so on. But when I came into contact with Swami, it affected my life in such a way that I gave up meat eating. I used to drink off and on and I gave up that totally. And so I decided now to take Swami's teaching and internalize it in myself. Whenever we would go out, I would never drink, smoke or consume alcohol. And sometimes I would be made a joke of it by people making comments. And so I used to get a lot of peer pressure, but I stuck very strong to my principles. And in the end, people respected me. That look, Fize could have such a good time And he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't eat meat. So, in that way, I strived to put Swami's teachings into practice. And there's one teaching of Swami that goes like this: politics without principles, education without character, science without humanity, business without a morality is not only useless but positively dangerous. In striving to do things the right way, I was being opposed by those who were doing it the wrong way. But I held firm to my belief and to my principles, knowing that this is what Swami wanted. And sometime after, now sometimes I would meet friends who I'd worked with and their lives had changed for the betterment. Let's say they got married, they had children, so their lives had to change in order to set a good example. And they would now come back and tell me how they really admired how I stood up for what was right.